History celebrates Alfred the Great as the savior of England, the king who defeated the Vikings and laid the foundation for a united nation. But what if the real story begins one generation earlier? Long before Alfred became a legend, England stood on the brink of collapse. Viking longships were burning towns, monasteries were being looted, and entire kingdoms were falling. Yet one king stood between total destruction and survival. A king who crushed Viking armies, a king who walked away from a civil war to save his kingdom, a king who traveled to Rome on one of the most extraordinary royal pilgrimages of the Middle Ages. But his most controversial decision would ignite a royal scandal that shocked Europe. Before we dive into the main story, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell notification button for more interesting video like this. His name was King Æthelwulf of Wessex. And without him, there might never have been an England for Alfred the Great to defend. During the early medieval period, England was not a unified nation. Instead, it was divided into competing Anglo-Saxon kingdoms often called the Heptarchy. Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria, East Anglia, Essex, Sussex. These kingdoms constantly fought each other for dominance. But a new threat was approaching from the north: the Vikings. The first recorded Viking raid occurred in 793 AD at the monastery of Lindisfarne. Monks were slaughtered, sacred treasures were stolen, and it marked the beginning of the Viking Age. Æthelwulf was born around 795 AD. He was the son of Egbert, one of the most powerful rulers in Anglo-Saxon England. Egbert had risen to power after defeating the kingdom of Mercia at the Battle of Ellendun. This victory changed English history. For the first time, Wessex became the dominant kingdom of southern England. To maintain control, Egbert appointed his son Æthelwulf as sub-king of Kent around 825 AD. This allowed the young prince to learn leadership, diplomacy, and military strategy. When Egbert died in 839 AD, Æthelwulf became king of Wessex. But the situation he inherited was dangerous. Viking raids were becoming more frequent. Monasteries and coastal towns were prime targets because they contained wealth but little defense. Throughout the 840s, Viking longships attacked southern England repeatedly. Some raids included hundreds of warriors. At times, entire towns were burned. The survival of Wessex was uncertain. In 851 AD, a massive Viking fleet arrived in southern England. This was not just a raid. It was a full invasion force. King Æthelwulf and his son Ethelbald assembled an army. They met the Vikings at the Battle of Aclea. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle later described the result as the greatest slaughter of a heathen army that we have ever heard tell of. The Vikings were completely defeated. This victory temporarily stopped Viking expansion in southern England. It proved that the Vikings could be beaten. In 855 AD, King Æthelwulf made one of the most remarkable decisions of any medieval king. He left his kingdom and traveled on pilgrimage to Rome. At the time, such a journey could take months and was extremely dangerous. Bandits, disease, and political rivals made the trip risky. Before leaving, he entrusted the kingdom to his sons. While in Rome, he donated gold and treasure to churches, strengthened ties with the papacy, supported Christian institutions in England. He also confirmed a famous policy called the royal tithe, giving 1/10 of royal lands to the church. On his return journey in 856 AD, something unexpected happened. Æthelwulf married Judith of Flanders. She was the daughter of Charles the Bald, grandson of Charlemagne. This was a powerful political alliance. Even more shocking, Judith was formally crowned queen. Anglo-Saxon kings rarely crowned their wives. This elevated her status dramatically. When Æthelwulf returned to England, he discovered a crisis. His son Ethelbald had seized power in western Wessex. A civil war seemed inevitable. But instead of fighting his son, Æthelwulf made a historic compromise. The kingdom was divided. Ethelbald ruled western Wessex. Æthelwulf ruled eastern Wessex and Kent. This decision likely prevented the collapse of the kingdom during a time of Viking threats. King Æthelwulf died on January 13, 858 AD. He was buried at Stenning before later reburials elsewhere. After his death, his sons ruled in succession. Ethelbald, 858 to 860. Ethelbert, 860 to 865. Æthelred I, 865 to 871. Alfred the Great, 871 to 899. Eventually Alfred would defeat the Vikings and transform Wessex into the foundation of England. But the story took a shocking turn. After Æthelwulf died, his widow Judith married his own son Æthelbald. Even by medieval standards, this was scandalous. The church condemned the union. Historians still debate why it happened. Some believe it was a political move to secure legitimacy. Others think it was a power struggle. But the marriage did not last long. Æthelbald died only 2 years later in 860 AD. Judith eventually returned to continental Europe. History often focuses on Alfred the Great. But modern historians now recognize the importance of King Æthelwulf. His achievements included defeating major Viking armies, strengthening the Christian church, building alliances with European powers, maintaining political stability during crises, preparing the kingdom his sons would defend. Without Æthelwulf's leadership, Wessex might have collapsed before Alfred ever became king. But the Viking threat was far from over. Only 13 years after Æthelwulf's death, the most dangerous Viking army ever assembled arrived in England. It was called the Great Heathen Army. Within a few years, almost every Anglo-Saxon kingdom would fall. All except one, Wessex. And the man who would defend it was the youngest son of King Æthelwulf, Alfred the Great. For more videos like this, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.